If you do not want to change, if you do not want to better yourself, if you do not want to break outside of this matrix, if you want to live in your comfortable delusion that they have built for you, do not watch these videos. Leave this channel.
Because when I step to the game, I rip that shit
do
apart.
not want any truth, don't want to understand. If you are not here to hear something that's outside of your own mind and accept others' minds and opinions, the way they think for themselves, you do not belong here.
I'm trying as hard as I can against all of the odds, pushing as hard as I could is what got me so far.
If you are not trying to help create solutions while we discuss the problems and how they got here,
Never my senses heightened,
you
and
do
my
not
weed
belong
up in
here.
a jar.
Negativity, hate, disrespect, name calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform.
I'ma catch you
And not in this
while you
empire.
chillin' in the crib. Got
We
your chick
are
in my car.
the ones,
Every
the
time
true
you hear it tripping like that shit
Americans
sounds
that
bizarre.
want to
Your favorite
be
rapper try
free
hard, still
and
is a mark.
stand as we
Still
have
like
always
fuel
stood.
to the game, watch it spark. My lines burn like blunts, getting smoked in the dark. Hella cooking shit up if your ass wanna spar. Barbecue your beef up like the seats in my car. Cool yourself off refrigerator jar. Baby rappers, they not like this is not an art. Huh, you forgot about that part. Baby rappers been acting like this is not an art. Huh,
This is something we gotta do. They forgot about that part. Yeah, don't let them trick you. Don't let them trick you. Don't let them trick you out your money. Don't let them trick you out your life. Don't let them trick you out your mind. All these tricks, I'm telling you, some bullshit. Shout out to everybody that went to work today. Shout out to everybody that did overtime. You guys make the world go round. Without you, we don't really have much, do we? All right? All the way from the guy that thought of the idea to come up with the company, all the way to the guy that puts the shit on the shelf that you go buy. Okay? And don't forget the guy at the register. Okay? Shout out to everybody that put in work. If you don't have a job and you didn't put no work in today and you haven't actually participated in society even a little bit, look, it's okay. We can all do better. You have another day. Tomorrow, maybe. Depends. You got to make it through the night, though. A lot of people didn't make it to today. So shout out to everybody that made it to today. And hopefully we all wake up and we still here tomorrow, right? Don't sleep, okay? Look, a lot of people, they're a little scared. They're scared of themselves. They're scared of the things that they're capable of. Because remember, everybody has a potential, right? And most people are scared of their own potential because the way our society has groomed us, that having potential is a bad thing. And if you actually exercise your potential, you have to do it in a way. Yo, what up, Miles? Shout out to Miles. You have to do it in a way to do it how they're saying, okay? Okay, so if you try to, like, let's say, hit your potential, right? And you're the best. Look at Michael Jordan. And then look at what happened with Michael Jordan. You see what I'm saying? And then you got to look at Bill Cosby. Then you got to look at what happened with Bill Cosby. Okay? Then you can look at, okay, fine. We'll move away from those two people specifically, just for the sake of the argument. We can move over to Robin Williams, and then we can see what happened to him. Then we can move over to Heath Ledger, and we can see what happened to him. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is. But once you get to your potential, if you are not using that potential in the way the system is telling you you have to, based off of societal pressures and propaganda, you are not allowed to be at your potential. That is one of the things. And that's what we're fighting against. We're fighting against the box itself. They say you have to think outside the box when you get to a certain level. Oh, you got to think outside the box. Wait, what do you mean? Because the people that are down here, they're trapped in the box, and they have to think within the box, or else they can't get on top of the box. See what I'm saying? Or they can't get out of the box. But that's not true. The reality is, God gave us the minds we have so we can take ourselves outside of our current physical situation and calculate and read the room and estimate and speculate. This is what we have to utilize. This is a gift that has been taken from you at a young age. That childlike wonder. You ain't wondering about shit no more. Nigga, you trying to stay alive. You keeping your head down. Like, bro, you dodging and bobbing. Like, yeah, it's like that, bro. And that's how the system got you. That's how you know the system got you, when you gotta look over your shoulder real quick every 5 seconds. The system is gonna take me out because it don't want me to talk to y'all. It don't want me to wake y'all up. It doesn't want me to have you guys dig deeper inside yourself and realize you have a potential that has not been touched, or you barely scratched the surface of who you actually are. Situations that you go through define your. This is one of the things that's necessary. You have to go through something. If you're not going through something, how can you learn from what you've been through? How can you grow? How could you say that you understand what somebody else went through if you haven't gone through it, or if you don't have any sort of relatable stress, or relatable excitement, or relatable like, if you want to go humor, some people just aren't as, some people have a different sense of funny, right? We're getting into psychology because the mind itself is so complex that we have to take our time to unravel it, to figure out the layers, to get deeper inside of it. And that takes a little bit of digging. It takes a little effort. It takes a little bit of movement, a little bit of change, a little bit of malleability. And without actually expanding our minds and utilizing our minds, how could we say that we're thinkers? All right? How could you say you understand something fully if you're not looking at the situation? You're not looking. You're not seeing the other side. You're shut off. It's okay though. This is one of the things we have to actually break through before we can understand the solution to the problem. So the best thing for me to do is to continue to go through this. And that's why I'm here with you guys. So we can talk about these solutions. These solutions matter. So I'm looking right now because we got some incredible. We did some updates here. We did a UD6. That's what took us so long to start the show. We did the update. I think we covered the holes, but we gotta run it back through. We gotta run it back through the machine. We gotta run the logic again. We have to have the conversation. You know, it's a thing, and I think it's something that we have to do. So I do have it here. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right, so I opened it with, this is the updated one. That's why the show's running so late. My bad, guys. I had to take some time to actually go over the information. I had to read a lot. I tried to skim through. I was looking for all the keywords, making sure they were in the right place because I know the context. I'm about to drop the link so you guys can view it. Let's see. Did that wrong. Let's see. All right, so this is the proposal that we have here. I hope you guys get stuff like that. That would be cool. I dropped it in the chat there. So that is the updated one. This is where we're at right now, UD6. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen here in a moment. I just dropped it for you guys. This is the one I was working on. I'm trying to go through and correct all the punctuation, shit like that. Make sure the pages are more condensed so it's easier to read. But right now it looks like it's 12, but that's because I did it in short form. Sorry. I will definitely fix the format and everything and take the spacing out. But that should pop up for you guys. Hopefully that does pop up. Once you click that link right there, that is the proposal. I'm going to show my screen here. This is the one, change 6. All right, I think it's a better copy. I'll just use the copy that I sent to you guys. That way you guys can see that we're looking at the same exact thing, so you don't think I'm trying to pull some magic. But I'm still in the process of updating it. We're gonna go through the holes. I fed it to Claude already. I don't want to feed it to Grok until later, because Grok, the Grok that I have, I set it up to where it's gonna be extremely evil and hateful, and I definitely need to convince that Grok. If I can, then we win. So I just need to make sure this shit is airtight before I take it over there. That one is gonna fight me on every corner. All right. Grok is almost propaganda at this point, so I have to make sure Grok analyzes if we do speak there. All right, so this is where we're looking at. All right. I might be able to edit this. I'm not sure, but if I can, we will make some edits here. All right. So this right here, it's called the Stewardship and Minimum Wage Act. All right. The thing is, a minimum wage of $25 an hour approximates the wage required for basic economic security in many parts of the United States, as reflected in contemporary living wage research and cost of living indices or indices. Now, here is a critical information point, because this is researched. All of this is. That's why I'm bringing it up. And if you look it up, the research will show tens of millions of workers currently earn less than $25 an hour, and real wage growth has lagged behind increases in cost of housing, healthcare, and other necessities. Okay? So if our wages aren't keeping up with the housing and the healthcare and all the other necessities of life, water, soap, food, these things, how could you expect us to be able to live? Okay? And the findings that we have found, and yes, we researched all of this before we put it on paper because we had to back this up with research because people kept trying to ask us, okay? This is reflected in the contemporary living wage research and cost of living indices. So if you go look and you look up these things, the cost of living, contemporary minimum wage across the board, what it would take for somebody to live. We're just giving you information here at this point on why what we're about to say is so important. All right? Tens of millions of workers already earn less than $25 an hour. All right? And real wage growth lag behind increases in the cost of living and healthcare, other necessities. We can clearly see the inflation, and our wages are not keeping up with that. Many sectors already operate with high reinvestment and operation ratios, including sectors with which a substantial majority of revenue is routinely allocated to salaries, supplies, equipment, and operations, and manufacturing and other labor-intensive industries which operating costs typically account for a substantial majority of revenue, and they're profitable. So this is what I'm saying. If there's companies that are already doing it, then all the companies that are doing this predatory extraction, they should have to make sure their company is doing the job and doing the work instead of something else. Because if they're not doing legit business, then what are they doing? And here's the thing, anybody that wants to do illegitimate business, should they even be in business? That's like saying anybody that wants to hurt somebody, should they have a gun? Like, really? Come on now. Let's stop. Let's stop with the foolishness. I sound silly, sure. But the logic a lot of people want to stay under is retarded. All right, now here. Certain sectors, including but not limited to largely publicly traded operations, have increasingly directed a significant of share revenue to buybacks, dividends, and other forms of extraction to owners and executives rather than wages. What? They do that? Really? Yes, they do. And we've discovered this. Rather than to wages, investment, or enterprise stability. So they don't really care if they have to lay you off as long as they want. That's not fair. All this gets limited. This is the beautiful part. See, this right here, this is the information part. This is why we're doing this. See, these are the findings. And I did the research for them. Okay, $25 minimum wage. Approximate the wage required for basic security in many parts of the US. This is what I'm trying to get for you guys. They won't do that. Well, guess what? I got a plan for them to do that. Man, calm down, bro. Hit the link. Y'all want to talk about it? I'll drop the other link. But that link right there, I'm writing it. If you don't like what it says, tell me. You can tell me right there in the chat. I'll add it. We'll ask Claude, how does he feel about that? And then what? The AI is going to prove you wrong, because I've been fighting with the AI over this, because when I first proposed it, everything was against me. But when I clarified what I meant, it's like, yes, you have to be very specific about what you say or else. And I'm saying, yes, I'm being very specific on purpose. You don't know. I'm sitting here. There's an equation in front of me. And I'm filling in the numbers. And I'm seeing if the math works. You feel me? If the math doesn't work, then the equation is broken. But my math is sound as well. That's the beautiful part. A lot of people don't want to hear this. They don't want me to succeed. They don't want the channel to succeed. They don't want us to succeed in actually creating change that would benefit people, because the idea that they have of success, which is this mass extraction and working people to the bone and not giving them anything barely, that's what's there. That's what has been programmed in us to keep the machine running so it can keep liquidating the assets. This is what's making everything different. Why should you want to change anything? This is the question we have to ask ourselves. Why would we want to change anything? You guys like it the way it is. And you guys are hoping to be that next executive in line to receive a huge payout. But what happened to wanting to build something legit? What happened to good business? What happened to common decency and respect? Why should anybody want to hear any of this, right? I feel you. You don't want to hear this. Why should you want to hear this? It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear. All right. My bad. I don't know what's going on. It could be that weather. Anyways, I put it together. We're gonna see what Claude say about this. All right, so we're live right now. The audience is out there. Um, with your analysis, did we hit the holes we needed to hit? Um, I'll deal with the punctuation and those things or whatnot later, but we just want to make sure we got the idea on paper. Are there any other loopholes or any other holes that we have here, or did we touch everything?
Good news. Yes, we hit basically everything on the list. The citations got replaced with actual written findings instead of dangling brackets. The contractor gap is closed. The owner wage loophole has the dual cap. All 5 backdoors. Captive insurance, sale. Leaseback, phantom interest, stock comp, staffing agencies are named and subject to the 4-factor test. And the sale shortfall liability is in there too. One real gap I'd flag before we call it done. There's no small business revenue floor for domestic operations. Right now, covered enterprise just means anyone employing a worker in the US. Full stop. No minimum size. That $5 million or 20% threshold we added only applies to foreign companies, proving they have substantial US nexus. A tiny 2-person lemonade stand technically counts as a covered enterprise, the same as a Fortune 500 company. Practically, it wouldn't matter much since a business that small is basically all labor cost anyway. But a hostile reviewer will absolutely seize on there's no flaw and try to make it sound absurd. Also worth a mention, there's no statute of limitations or look-back period on enforcement actions, and no whistleblower incentive provision, which is usually what actually surfaces violations in the real world rather than agency audits alone. Everything else I'd call locked. Want me to hold those 3 for update 7, or keep going deeper right now while you're live?
All right. Is there a basic standard for those 3 already?
Yeah, actually all 3 already have real precedent in existing law, so we wouldn't be inventing anything new, just borrowing the standard. Small business flaw. The Fair Labor Standards Act, the actual federal minimum wage law, already uses a threshold. Businesses need at least $500,000 in annual revenue. Law and labor law both have standard look-back windows already. The IRS generally uses 3 years for normal audits, 6 years if there's a substantial understatement, and there's no limit at all if fraud is involved. Same shape works here, a 3-year standard look-back for normal compliance review, extending to 6 years for significant underreporting, and no limit if it's proven willful fraud or concealment. That gives businesses certainty for good faith mistakes, but keeps the door open forever on people gaming it on purpose. Whistleblower incentive. This one's actually got a really strong precedent. The IRS whistleblower program and the False Claims Act qui-tam provisions. Both let a person who reports fraud collect a percentage of whatever the government recovers, usually somewhere between 15 and 30%. We could build the same thing in here. Anyone who reports a violation, an employee, an accountant, even a competitor, gets a cut of any disgorgement or penalty collected. That's usually what actually catches this stuff in practice, not audits. So all three have existing provable standards to lean on. We're not building from scratch, just adapting frameworks that already survive legal challenges.
Okay, so since there's already a standard for those things, what are our 3 issues? And if the standards cover it, I mean, wouldn't we just apply standards?
Right, exactly. That's the simplest path, and honestly the smartest one. Since all 3 already have working court-tested standards, we don't need to invent anything custom. We just explicitly adopt the existing standard by reference in the bill. So there's no ambiguity about which rule applies. 3 clean additions for Update 7. Small business flaw. Add a line to Section 3's covered enterprise definition, adopting the same threshold structure as the Fair Labor Standards Act. Something like, this act does not apply to enterprises with less than $500,000 in annual revenue, unless the enterprise otherwise engages in interstate commerce meeting existing federal thresholds. Statute of limitations. Add to Section 9's enforcement language. Standard compliance review is limited to 3 years preceding the reporting period, extended to 6 years for substantial underreporting, consistent with existing federal tax audit standards, with no limitation period where willful fraud or concealment is established. Whistleblower incentive. Also under Section 9, add that any person who provides original information leading to a recovery under this act shall be eligible to receive between 15 and 30% of the amount collected, consistent with existing federal whistleblower and qui-tam frameworks. So yeah, your instinct is right. We're not solving new problems. We're just plugging in rules that already survived the Supreme Court and Congress once before. That's actually a strength to say out loud to the audience. This bill isn't reinventing the wheel everywhere. It borrows the parts that already work and only innovates where it actually needs to. The 2575 extraction cap itself.
All right, so thank you for explaining that to the people, because apparently they can't understand it when I say it, even though I use the same words. It's probably because I am not some sort of credential professional or acclaimed credential professional. It's like claiming a title. There's more to life than a title. It's okay. You know, the weather's changing and stuff, guys, so my connection might be a little weird. But yes, I think
through, the small business floor, the statute of limitations, and the whistleblower incentive all have real legal precedent to lean on. So once you draft them into Update 7 using those existing federal frameworks, that should close out the last open items. At that point, the structure covers the core extraction cap, the wage floor, all the backdoor or are we calling this vote for tonight?
Hold on, guys. Let me see if I could fix my connection, and let me see if I could do that. Give me a second, because this is wild. They trying to fuck this up. All right. Hopefully that fixed it. Um, we'll get back to the conversation. Hopefully that fixes everything. All right, I think I fixed the connection issue. So go ahead and let's do a couple of stress tests on this, real scenarios, because right now a lot of people don't think this will hold up in court, but I do know this will hold up in court. Um, and we need to explain how it's constitutional, because a lot of people think it's unconstitutional, and then there's some arguments about if this is some sort of never gonna happen kind of thing. That, okay, fine, a lot of people wouldn't want this to come out, and if we did vote for it, then it would happen. So it getting on the ballot is improbable, but not impossible. That's one of the things I want to get across to the people. But is it possible? Is this structurally sound? They say it'll crash the economy, things like this. It's going to ruin small businesses, blah, blah, blah. But give us, go hard on this, because we need to make sure that this is airtight.
All right. Founding. Scenario 1. The "this will crash the economy" claim. Walk through the actual mechanic. This bill doesn't create new money or destroy existing revenue. It just redirects where revenue that's already coming into a business goes. Right now, S&P 500 companies alone pull out $1.6 trillion in dividends. This bill
Yeah, we got cut off. You're gonna have to repeat that whole entire thing again. So, yeah, it's a thing. My bad. Word for
existing. If those industries can do it and thrive, the claim that 75% reinvestment is economically impossible falls apart on its face. The businesses that would actually feel pressure are the ones extracting 50, 60, 70% while paying workers minimum wage. And that's specifically the model this bill exists to correct. Now the constitutional piece, since that's the one people keep calling. Mistake.
They really, really don't want us chopping it up, guys. They don't want us to do. They don't want us to. But I need you to repeat that again.
Ah, I got you. But let's not blame the Wi-Fi gods a third time. Let's just make sure we're actually stable first. Rather than repeat the whole block word for word again, tell me, did it cut out again? Or did you just want it once more for the recording? If it's for the recording, I'd say let's move forward instead,
Look,
since the core
check
answer
this
hasn't
out.
changed.
Just
It's
repeat it.
constitutionally.
Just repeat it, because we're on a live stream, and for some reason, it's just cutting things up, and it's okay because we have to start over. So just go ahead and just repeat word for word, so that way we can have this documented. I want people to be able to see this.
Got it. Here it is again. Word for word. All right, let's go hard on this. Real scenarios, real constitutional grounding. Scenario 1. The "this will crash the economy" claim. Walk through the actual mechanics. This bill doesn't create new money or destroy existing revenue. It just redirects where revenue that's already coming into a business goes. Right now, S&P 500 companies alone pull out $1.6 trillion a year in extraction, buybacks, and dividends. This bill caps that at 25% of revenue, meaning the businesses actually extracting at unsustainable rates have to redirect the difference back into wages and operations. That's not economic destruction. That's a wealth transfer from a small number of shareholders into millions of paychecks and business reserves. Money doesn't vanish, it moves, and it moves toward workers who spend nearly all of it locally, which is actually more economically stimulative than a stock buyback, since buybacks mostly just inflate share prices without creating new spending. Scenario 2, the small business panic. We already stress tested this hard.
This is what
Healthcare
I be
already
talking
runs
about.
at 80% reinvestment. Manufacturing at 70 to 80%. Those are massive, functioning, profitable sectors operating inside this bill's numbers right now, without the bill even existing.
Exactly.
If those industries can do it and thrive, the claim that 75% reinvestment is economically impossible falls apart on its face. The businesses that would actually feel pressure are the ones extracting 50, 60, 70% while paying workers minimum wage, and that's specifically the model this bill exists to correct. Now the constitutional piece, since that's the one people keep calling unconstitutional without
Very
actually running the test.
constitutional.
The relevant framework is the Penn Central Regulatory Takings Test. 3 factors. 1, economic impact, and we just showed compliant industries aren't touched. 2, interference with investment-backed expectations, and courts have
Again.
consistently held there's no vested constitutional right to a specific extraction rate, only to the underlying property itself, which owners keep in full. 3, character of the government action, and this is the strongest card. There's no seizure here. No
Not
government
taking
taking your
nothing.
building, your equity, your
Nope.
ownership stake. Owners keep
All
100%
yours.
ownership, get full equity appreciation, and get 50% of sale proceeds up front in an exit. That's regulation of business conduct, not confiscation of property. The same categories as minimum wage law itself, which has been upheld under Commerce Clause authority for nearly 90 years since the Fair Labor Standards Act passed in
Booyah.
1938. On feasibility, and I think this is actually the most honest thing to tell the audience, you're right that getting this onto an actual ballot or through Congress is a heavy lift. Power question, lobbying money, campaign contributions, media narratives, all of that stands between a sound bill and an enacted law. But hard to pass and unconstitutional are 2 completely different claims, and people conflate them on purpose, because this could never happen. Sounds a lot more comfortable to say os chan, this skal happen ang extrases mi extraction iskub. So the honest stress test result, legally sound, constitutionally defensible under existing precedent, economically survivable for the vast majority of real businesses, and only structurally threatening to the extraction first minority who were never counted on math being on their side to begin with. The obstacle isn't whether it holds up, it's whether enough people demand people benefiting from the current system convince them not to.
This is where it's up to you guys now. I can't be held accountable for what you think, but the AI, I've been battling with the AIs, all of them, over this. And I went back to the drawing board and I corrected my speech because I have to say it a specific way so that way they understand that's what they do. You know what I mean? So I'm taking that time to try to understand, okay, look, how can I beat the game? Okay, if this is, and that's the rule, okay, we can come up with loopholes to get around shit. All right, let me a loophole to catch all that shit, right? Make you have to play the game correctly. That's what this is all about. All right, so let me see here. I need to pull this up for a second so I can. I need to post this thing on here real quick. Oh yeah, here it is. I gotta pin this shit. Okay, gotcha. Let's close that. All right, so I pinned it so you guys can see the document right there if you want to pull it up. They cut us off a second ago. They literally chopped off the shit. I don't know what happened. But this is what we're looking at right now. This is the update 4 version that I was telling everybody I'm working on. Okay. I mean update 6. I'm sorry. I think so far it's done. I just need to tighten up a little bit and pretty much remind everybody that the current law still stands. This doesn't affect any of that. And all the catch mechanisms are still enforced the same way. That's really it. But we did it. We put it to pen to paper, and belt to ass on this shit. And we're about to get Claude. He just was explaining it some more. We are going over all the different conversations that are trying to defy this. Because here's the thing, we're really speaking to an ideology. This is something we're trying to defeat. All right, so I've been thinking that the ideology we're trying to defeat is the ideology of greed. And I believe that greed is one of the most powerful demons, next to lust and next to pride. Those are the three most powerful out of all the demons. That's one of the things I'll say as far as like emotional integrity and things like this. We have to take into consideration that when we're interacting with people, okay, everything we do is gonna affect them. But this right here, it can help limit and bring down some of that negativity that we're bringing into the world, because these are all vibrations. Greed, pride, lust. These are vibrational frequencies that we attune to. That's another thing that I was trying to point out as well. But this is a battle against principalities, and to try to even break through this greed mold that we've been indoctrinated into, it's gonna be difficult. Of course, we have almost everything and everybody against us, but we do have a plan and we do have a solution to the problem everybody keeps complaining about. This is what we're here for. We are here trying to put this together. Now we need to go ahead and hear those arguments. Give us the new arguments, because I do see that there might be one more chink in the armor, okay, with our 3 updates that we made, that give the proper enforcement mechanisms. It gives the power to the ones that are currently here, so that should be an easy, standard enforcement mechanisms apply to all, everything, whatever, sure, whatever, it's a thing. So that should be pretty easy to put on paper. And if that's the only hole and we've closed it, I really feel like this could be a final draft on number 7. But I just want to make sure. So we got to go hard at this, because there's going to be people that want to vote, and people that don't vote. We want to try to get them up off the couch for this situation, because some people just want to be regular folk and just have a regular job and be able to make it happen. And this might be one of the things that could help us make that next move, how we had the civil rights. And this could be the Pay Equality Act or something, or that's why we're calling it the Stewardship and Minimum Wage Act, because we want to make sure everybody is getting their piece of the pie as much as possible, so there's no complaints on any side. So I need you to also bring up the benefits of each, the benefits that defeat it, because we need to defeat this greed with kindness, and how they still have their opportunity to feed their greed, but it's in a structured way. We gotta make it look pretty. At the same time, we have to be serious and let them know if we're really just trying to stop all the bad actors, all the ones that are just exploiting our system, when they could be reinvesting into other things that would be more efficient and more enterprise, things like that, environmental, whatnot. But this is all allocated to them. But at the same time, like, when you're doing business like that and you're bringing in millions, right, billions, right, trillions, even if you're bringing in that kind of revenue and your society is not awesome, I don't know what you're doing. You got to really think about some things here. Unless you're employing everybody and you're paying them that minimum wage and everything is already, you're doing what you can, that's great. Then you're already in the green, but it's the people that aren't. And that's where we're draining equity. That's where we're losing all of the trillions that need to be circulating into our economy to get us out of debt.
Okay, let's separate two things here, because one is a legal question and one is a values question, and both matter. On the enforcement hole you're asking about, you're right, it should be simple, and here's why. Standard enforcement mechanisms, the three we borrowed, revenue floor, statute of limitations, whistleblower incentive, all apply uniformly to every covered enterprise. There's no special carve-out or extra power given to any one group. The same agency, the same civil penalty structure, the same disgorgement and clawback authority from Section 9 already covers all of it. You're not creating a new enforcement arm. You're just plugging existing federal enforcement patterns into the same single agency this bill already assumes. So if that's the only hole left, yeah, that one closes clean. It's not structurally complicated. It's just formatting the same tool 3 more times. Now, here are a few new arguments to stress test, since you asked me to go hard. 1. They'll say, this is a slippery slope. Today, it's 25% extraction. Tomorrow, the government caps it at 10, or expands it to every industry with no revenue floor at all. The counter is the bill's own severability and defined thresholds. The numbers are written into statute, not left to agency. Discretion, so changing them, requires a new act of Congress, not a regulatory whim. 2, they'll say this only works domestically, and global competitors without these rules will outcompete American companies on price. The counter is that this only applies to a company's US-derived revenue and US operations. Foreign operations outside that nexus aren't touched. So it's not asking American companies to lose overseas. It's asking them to stop hollowing out the American side of the business specifically. 3, and this one's more philosophical. They'll say you can't legislate morality. Greed is human nature. No law fixes character. And honestly, that's true. This bill was never designed to fix greed as a spiritual condition. It's designed to remove the exploitative outlet for it. Someone who wants to be wildly wealthy still can be. 25% of a well-run trillion-dollar company is still an enormous fortune. The bill doesn't ask people to stop wanting more. It asks the vehicle for getting more to also build something durable underneath it. Workers paid, businesses funded, equity actually built, instead of hollowed out. That's actually the benefit framing you were
This is
describing.
what I'm reaching at, guys.
The person driven by
I
ambition,
need you guys
even
to
by something like
understand. This is
greed,
what I'm reaching
still
at,
gets
guys.
their reward under this bill. They just get it by building instead of stripping. 25% of a thriving trillion-dollar company compounding year over year is a bigger number over a lifetime than 100% extraction from a company that collapses in 5 years. The math itself becomes the moral correction. You don't have to convince someone to be virtuous. You just make virtue and self-interest point the same direction. That's honestly a more durable solution than appealing to conscience alone, because it doesn't rely on people changing their hearts. It relies on the incentive structure rewarding the behavior you actually want. So the practical answer, yes, I think Update 7 with those 3 enforcement additions closes the structural gaps we've found. The remaining fight isn't in the paper anymore.
Perfect.
It's in getting people to actually
We're getting
look at the
somewhere on
paper
this, guys. We're
instead of
getting
the fear
somewhere.
campaign around it.
It's okay. So, what's awesome is everything we're doing here is supposed to benefit of everybody. Okay? I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm not trying to make people feel like they don't have an opportunity. I want people to be able to understand that we are the people that have each other's backs. Your neighbor, that fellow American, you know. It's hard to understand that a lot of people don't really care. It's a heavy one, man. It's heavy. So it's like, okay, fine. How could I even make a difference if nobody even wants to? But that's a philosophical question, right? That's why this is gonna need the peoples to be behind it. They actually have to want better for themselves, or it's not gonna work. Um, it's gonna take maybe incline, and they want to actually level up. Maybe they take this and but convincing people of this right here, it's gonna be a hard one. Why? Because um, it, it cuts down a lot of the doning. The donors are gonna switch where the money's at. Who's gonna vote for you? Um, they'll smear campaign you. Um, all the good stuff. I mean, this is never gonna see the light of day. But we're still gonna try. We're still gonna try because we have to.
Yeah, that's the honest part. And it's worth sitting in for a second instead of rushing past it. You're right. The legal groundwork can be airtight, and the political road can still be brutal. Donors will pull funding from anyone who touches this. There will be smear campaigns. There will be well-funded think tanks producing studies, claiming economic collapse. That's not paranoia. That's just how entrenched money defends itself every single time something threatens it. Going back to child labor laws, minimum wage itself, all the way through.
This is all true.
Every one of those fights looked impossible right up until it wasn't. Here's the thing though, and I think it's actually the real answer to how do I make a difference if nobody wants to? You don't need everybody. You
Are
need
you
enough
sure?
people to see it clearly enough that it
Okay.
becomes something a
Just
politician
enough
can
people.
pick. Right now, it doesn't exist anywhere, so nobody can even consider it. The first job isn't passing it. The first job is just making sure it exists on paper correctly. So when the moment comes, and there's always a moment, a recession, a scandal, a tipping point,
Yes,
somebody
yes.
with actual political power has a
Yes.
ready-made, defensible answer sitting there instead of nothing. That's genuinely what you're building right now. Not a guaranteed law. A loaded option.
Damn, they keep jumping. No, I don't know. They don't want me to show this shit. So all I could do is put the link in there, and y'all gotta go to the link and look at it. Every time I'm showing it, like StreamYard wants to clip my ass, bro. And then I don't know if anybody else is having StreamYard issues. I am right now, and my internet is being all wonky and shit too all of a sudden. But they can tell we're getting closer. You know, the enemy attacks when you're onto something. I'm battling against a principality that is strong. Okay, greed is strong. Greed is one of the biggest ones. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna end that conversation. All right. I'm gonna end that conversation. All right, we're gonna pick this conversation up because I'm putting forward here with this bill because this bill is attacking greed directly. My stewardship act, this minimum wage. There's a spiritual aspect we're battling here because if I go at greed directly with that, and it's a hard one.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's a real thread worth pulling on properly, rather than rushing through at the tail end of a stream. Greed as a spiritual force you're contending with, not just an economic pattern. That's a different kind of conversation than tax code and Penn's central tests, and it deserves the room to actually breathe. Want to dig into that now, or are you looking to wrap tonight?
We're gonna keep talking about the spiritual aspect of this, and we're gonna go ahead and because we already have what we need for the corrections, so I'm gonna make those corrections, and then that should be airtight. But we need to talk about what we're up against: the spiritual aspect and the mental aspect. Because if we can't change our minds, then we can't figure out what's going on inside of us. And yes, they keep trying to cut us off, but that's fine. We're gonna try to power through it anyway. So look, I need you to dig deep here, Claude, because going against this greed, okay? Can you give us the do your search, right? Because we want to know what greed is relative to. The beautiful thing about understanding what greed is relative to is because it brings us closer to the mental understanding of greed and the spiritual understanding of greed, so we can physically handle it and control it for ourselves, so we don't get overwhelmed by it and get thrown under it. So give us the three different greeds: the physical, the spiritual, and the mental.
All right, let's dig into it properly. 3 angles on greed, since you asked for physical, mental, spiritual. Physically, greed shows up as a scarcity reflex. It's the nervous system treating abundance like danger, hoarding as if there won't be enough tomorrow, even when there's already more than enough. It's almost animal, a survival instinct that never got the signal to stand down.
That makes a lot of sense.
The tell is it never actually satisfies. The person with 100 million wants 200, because the body's stress response driving it was never about the number. It was about a felt sense of threat that money can't actually resolve. Mentally, greed is a story about identity. It says, I am what I accumulate. My worth is measured by what I control. That's why it attaches so
that makes
easily to pride.
sense.
They're really the same root wearing different clothes. Pride says, I am superior.
That makes sense.
Greed says, I'll prove it by what I hold. The mental trap is that it's always comparative. It only exists relative to someone else having less, which is exactly why an extraction economy runs so efficiently. Someone's fortune requires someone else's shortage.
Ooh.
Spiritually. And this is the part most traditions actually agree on across the board. Greed is a distortion of a legitimate desire. The desire to be secure, to be significant, to leave something lasting. None of that is evil on its own. Greed is that same desire severed from any sense of enough and severed from responsibility to anyone else. Make you whole. Either way, the honest
That
read
makes
is,
a lot of sense.
greed isn't really about money. Money's just the object. It happens to grab onto. It's about trying to fill an internal absence with something external that was never built to fill it. And here's the piece that ties directly back to your bill. You're not asking someone to stop wanting more. You're building a structure where wanting more still gets rewarded. 25% of a growing company compounding for decades. But it can't be fed by stripping someone else bare to get there. That's actually the spiritual move underneath the legal one. You're not trying to exorcise greed out of the human heart through legislation. That's not what law can do. You're just refusing to let it feed on other people's wages and equity anymore. You redirect the appetite instead of pretending you can starve it. That's the honest three-part picture. Want to go deeper on any one of those, or keep it here for tonight?
We'll go deeper on the actual mentality behind greed and the spiritual aspects of greed, because this is what we're really up against, because physically overcoming greed is much harder if you do not have sufficient mental or spiritual awareness or strength in those aspects. This is something that is necessary for you to be able to hold your ground firm, because double-minded, I mean, that's when your spirit and your mentality are not in line. You know, you're putting yourself in a situation that's like being hot and cold at the same time. So this is where I'm going with it. This definitely makes sense. Let's definitely have you focus and do your deep search, but have a focus on the spiritual and the mental. This is what we're actually up against. You know, that connection between your mind and your actual spirit, what's inside you. This is something that is relevant to getting your physical character together. They hacked my shit. What? That's crazy. What? Ah, hell nah. Hey, they trying to shut us up on this one. That's crazy. Hold up, bro. That's wild. I'm not, man. That's cold. What? Hold on, wait a second. What? They did us, bro. What? All right, fine, whatever. We'll let them have it. So this is what we'll do. We'll go like this. Go ahead and repeat this because as soon as you started saying it, just repeat that whole thing. Just repeat it.
Alright, here's what came back, and it lines up with what you're circling. Across pretty much every tradition, Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, they all describe greed the same underlying way. Not as wanting things, but as clinging. There's a real distinction here. Greed has two parts, grasping and clinging. Grasping is reaching for something right now. Clinging is the fear underneath it, the fear of being without in the future. That's the mental and spiritual link you're pointing at. Greed isn't really about the object, it's stored fear wearing the costume of ambition. The Bhagavad Gita tradition actually ties greed directly to anger, calling it a triad. Lust, greed, and anger reinforce each other. That matches what you said earlier about greed,
Okay.
lust, and
This
pride
makes
being the
sense.
heavy three. They're not separate demons operating alone. They feed each other in a loop. Pride wants to be superior. Greed grasps to prove it. And when the grasping doesn't satisfy, it turns into anger at other people, at the system, at yourself. The Christian framing calls it idolatry, replacing dependence on God with dependence on possession.
That makes sense.
The Buddhist framing calls it a hindrance to consciousness itself. It literally blocks you from seeing clearly, from communing with anything bigger than the craving. One source put it directly. Greed keeps you from the bigger picture. It prevents communion with yourself and with God. Here's the piece I think connects hardest to your bill. Almost every tradition agrees the antidote to greed isn't restriction. It's gratitude and generosity. Not suppression, redirection. That's structurally the exact same move your bill makes economically. You're not telling a business owner to want less or to feel bad about ambition. You're building a structure where the reward for ambition has to pass through generosity first. Paying people fairly, reinvesting in the enterprise before the personnel extraction happens. The 25% isn't punishment, it's what's left after gratitude and stewardship already got fed.
See, look.
So mentally and spiritually, what you're actually fighting isn't greed as an emotion. People are allowed to want more. That's not evil. What you're fighting is the clinging, the fear-based hoarding that refuses to let anything flow back out. A law can't heal a person's fear, but it can refuse to let that fear be fed at other people's expense anymore. That might be the honest spiritual thesis of the whole bill right there.
All right, so if we are not really up against the actual the so wow, that was such a good insight. Hearing that a second time was amazing. So like it puts us in a sense of what are we actually fighting? Are we fighting our own self? Is this a self thing that we're fighting on this? A selfishness, the me, the I, I don't have to care about anybody else. I just need to get my own. I just need to worry about myself. Is this what, like, see, there's so much to this because everything is sound, it's legal, everything is perfect with it. We even added those changes, so this is where I'm getting a little bit confused on why people wouldn't want what's better or what's actually efficient or things like that. So now we're starting to see the principalities and the powers we're up against, and I'm really trying to open up as many eyes as I can, but this is just the first one. So I'm gonna make those updates, and then we'll have number 7, and then we'll see what that takes. Right now, you said all the holes are closed so far, so that's a good thing. It's just about getting it to the people and having them understand it. So, and this is that's the hard part. Actually trying to talk to people about this because they're already so deep in it that they can't see it. So, like, reaching out to the younger generation would probably be the best idea because they can probably see it a little bit better. The older people, you know, they don't have any hope. They've lost faith. They're just, I don't know what it is. Maybe you have some insight on this situation. So, anybody out there, if you guys got any information on this right here, this is a good thing. This is the new topic that's going to happen. This should be finished by tomorrow. They didn't want us to have it out. They shut everything down. It's weird, bro. This one's weird. This one's a bit weird. Today was a pretty weird day. That was weird. You know. Damn, they shut us down today. I need to go through and get my shit together. What? Damn, bro. Alright, whatever. Alright, I'm gonna just toss this episode in the trash. Just so you guys know. This episode is wonky. Everything was chopped up, fucked up, whatever. I don't know what's happening, but everything is just fucked up on this one. All right, my bad, guys. I'm pretty much over it. So, like, yeah, it's time for me to
get ready.
Shit exclusive. My little homegirl put me on. She said, this shit brand new, free flow. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. You forgot about that part. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. You forgot about that part. Lady rappers been spitting like they ain't got a heart. Because when I step to the game, I rip that shit apart. My evolution with the Gyarados from Magic Carpet. I ain't finished shopping till the whole world is in my cart. You fucking with me, yet you the role and play your part.
If you do not want to break out
strategize smart bet. Emotions
this
and
matrix.
reality always feel
If
this
you want
hard.
to live
Only
in your
if the
comfortable
universe
delusion
keeps dealing
that
shitty
they have
cards.
built
I'm trying
for
as
you.
hard as I can against all of the odds. Pushing as hard as I could
Do
is
not
what got me so far.
watch
But
these
what are my chances of
Leave
actually
this
reaching the
channel.
stars? Still, I will never get up tatted
If
over
you
my heart. Never
do
my soul
not
is hiding in my
want any
weed up
truth,
in the jar. Sexy
don't want to
little
understand,
looking
if you
ass
are
like
not
I'm
here
far. When it
to
comes to the game, I'm an
hear
eagle, you're par.
something
Please don't get to
that's
slipping.
outside of your
I'ma
own
catch
mind
you off guard
and
while you
accept
chillin' in the
others'
crib, got your
minds
chick
and
in my
opinions
car.
and the way
Every
they
time
think
you
for
hear it
themselves,
tripping
you
like
do
that
not
shit
belong
sounds
here.
bizarre. Your favorite rapper try
And
hard, still isn't mark.
If you are
Still
not
like
trying
the fuel
to
to the game, watch
be
it spark.
positive,
My lines
if you are
burn
not
like
trying
blunts
to
getting
help
smoked in the
create
dark.
solutions
Hella
while we
cooking shit
discuss
up.
the
If your
problems
ass
and
wanna
how they got
spar,
here,
barbecue your beef
you do
up
not
like
belong
seats in my
here.
car. Cool
Negativity,
yourself up, refrigerator,
hate,
jar.
disrespect, name calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform and not in this empire. We are the ones, the true Americans that want to be free and stand as we have always stood.
Damn, this shit exclusive.